Is the Motorola One 5G Ace worth buying? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, coming at you with my Motorola One 5G Ace review. Now this phone was launched in early January of 2021, so it is one of the latest and greatest mid-range devices from Motorola. The phone is being offered factory unlocked and does work with all the major US carriers, so it's definitely nice having an unlocked phone from the get-go so that you get the maximum amount of flexibility and options when choosing your carrier. But to see the most up-to-date pricing and availability, definitely take a look at the links in the video description. Now with this phone, we're getting a 6.7-inch display, so certainly a very large display here. That's definitely helpful when watching video content, scrolling through your social media feed, browsing the web. All those various things are going to be a lot easier to do and easier on your eyes with a larger display. Now the display itself features IPS LCD technology, so not quite as premium as other display technologies out there, like AMOLED for example, like we're getting with the Samsung Galaxy A51. But the display at least looks good enough that it does get the job done, but there is certainly room for improvement if they had gone with a more premium display technology. Now the display itself is 1080p, so things are nice and crisp here. We're getting a PPI of 393, so no complaints there. And thanks to the phone having a 20:9 aspect ratio, it's very well optimized for the ways that many of us use our devices. For example, by having this more narrow but taller form factor, when doing things like reading articles online, you're able to fit a lot more text here, which ends up resulting in you scrolling a bit less. Now this device does feature an 85.7% screen to body ratio, so we do have pretty small bezels all throughout. Now the bottom bezel is a bit larger than the other bezels, but that is due to the LCD display technology. If they would have gone with OLED for example, they actually could have given this phone an even smaller bottom bezel. But again, in general, the form factor is perfectly fine. Now up top here, we do have a 16 megapixel front-facing camera in a hole punch format centered at the top. Now up top here, we do have a hole punch for the front-facing camera, and that camera is 16 megapixels. Now stay tuned later on in the video as I'll show you a variety of different photo and video samples from this phone. Now with this variant of the Motorola One 5G Ace, we're getting 128 gigabytes of internal storage. So definitely a very generous amount of storage there, which is great because apps keep getting bigger and bigger in size. So having a lot of storage from the beginning will definitely help future-proof this phone so you can get more longevity out of it. Now, in addition to having that much internal storage, the phone also features microSD card expansion, allowing you to expand it even further. Now, there's no wireless charging with this phone, which is a bit of a disappointment. I would have liked to see wireless charging for multiple reasons. The first reason is because wireless charging is becoming more and more popular, and it's becoming easier and easier to use wireless charging because it's starting to get built into cars and desks and coffee shops as well. So I feel like Motorola's decision to omit wireless charging on this phone is a bit of a step backwards. Now the phone does feature a fingerprint sensor on the back, and that is actually very quick. So nice and fast there. We'll give that a try one more time. Very quick. And in addition to that, the phone also supports face unlock. So there are multiple ways to getting into the phone. Now on the back side of the device, we do have a triple camera setup. We're getting a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. In addition to that, this phone does support portrait mode with both the rear and front cameras. Now here's how things look on the camera app. This of course is with the front-facing camera right now. Then from here we can switch over to portrait mode to get those nice blurred out backgrounds. We can also switch around to the rear camera and get portrait mode as well to get blurred out backgrounds here. Then you can turn that off and then switch over to macro mode to get close-up images that have the actual subject in very good clarity. We can also switch over to the ultra wide angle camera, and with that, we're able to fit a lot more content into the frame. Now, I mostly use the ultra wide angle camera in outdoor situations. It's especially helpful when taking photos of buildings or taking photos of scenery. So if you are someone that likes to travel, or maybe you like to do a lot of camping and you want to take pictures of nature, then having the ultra wide angle camera will give you yet another cool way to capture images and kind of switch things up a bit. Now with this device, we're getting support for 4K video recording with the rear camera, and then 1080p with the front. Now the photo and video quality from this device has been surprisingly impressive. In general, I think it does a good job pulling out colors and at the same time not overexposing things. So I have no complaints with it. Now, of course, the quality from the cameras on this phone aren't going to be nearly as good as a flagship device, for example, like an iPhone 12 or the Galaxy S21. But considering that this is a mid-range phone, I feel like the photo and video quality is perfectly acceptable and in many ways does exceed my expectations. And for the majority of people out there that want a phone with a camera that takes good, usable images, then I think you're going to be perfectly satisfied with the Motorola One 5G Ace. But let's now take a look at some video samples. And here is a front-facing test video using the Motorola One 5G Ace. So it looks pretty clear from what I can see through the viewfinder. It is a little bit cloudy outside today, which is perfect for taking test photos and videos. But yeah, let me know what you think of the quality. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a test video using the Motorola One 5G Ace in 4K. We do have autofocus in video mode, which is great. And here's a 1080p test video with the Motorola One 5G Ace. Definitely keep in mind also how the audio quality sounds in addition to the video quality. Also keep in mind how the video stabilization is. And what's awesome too is that you can switch to the ultra wide angle camera while still recording the same video clip. So now we do have the ultra wide camera enabled, allowing us to fit more content into the frame. Typically though, when you use the ultra wide angle camera, you don't get nearly as much video stabilization, but that's okay. Now with this phone, we're getting 6 gigabytes of RAM and the Qualcomm Snapdragon 750G 5G processor. Now I feel like for both the RAM and the processor, Motorola made some really good choices. RAM is certainly adequate, and as far as the processor goes, I've been very impressed with the performance. Whether it's browsing the web, going on social media, doing some light to moderate gaming, things are going to run really smoothly here on the phone. Now I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 5, and I'll show you the scores from that test. But you can see here, I got a single core score of 661 and a multi-core score of 2010. So both of those are really good. And what I'd recommend doing is running the same test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of whether or not this phone is going to be an upgrade for you. But I would say if you're upgrading from like a Galaxy S9 or Galaxy S8, or maybe you have like an LG G6, this phone will be a great upgrade for you. And then by having 5G connectivity here with the phone, that is a nice thing that does future-proof this device. Now with the device, we're getting a very large battery at 5,000 milliamp hours, and you can charge up the phone at 15 watts as the maximum. So first thing, having a really large battery like that is great for multiple reasons. It's really good in general because it does give you great battery life. But in addition to that, the battery will degrade over time, just like with any other phone out there, and that battery degradation will not be nearly as noticeable when you're already getting incredible battery life from the beginning. So I think Motorola made an excellent decision putting a really large battery like this in the One 5G Ace. Another bonus with this phone too is that it does support NFC, So if you are someone that likes to make mobile payments, for example, then you will be able to do that here with this phone. Now, as far as the software goes, the device is running Android 10. It is a bit disappointing that it doesn't feature Android 11. I'm certainly hoping that it does get that update though pretty soon, but I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. The software experience on here is very good. We are getting a very stock experience, which I'm a big fan of, but Motorola did throw in some tweaks of their own to add in some additional features. But what I really like about that is that the additional features they've added are not gimmicky at all and add to the experience while at the same time not being annoying. So they did an excellent job with the software experience here, and I'm certainly a big fan of it. And definitely take a look at my dedicated tips and tricks video about this phone to learn all the ins and outs of all the various software features. Now, as far as build quality goes, the device itself is very solid. Definitely no problems with that. However, it is all made out of plastic besides the display, which is glass. So we're getting plastic on the sides and back. So if you are coming from a older flagship, again, like an S9 or an S8, for example, then you are gonna notice that the materials that this phone is made out of are not quite as good. But if you are someone that likes to put their device in a case, then you're really not gonna notice the difference anyway. And I'm a big fan of the material on the back. Now it does pick up some fingerprints, which is a bit unfortunate, but I think it looks really cool and very unique as well. Motorola calls this finish frosted silver, and again, I just think it looks really fantastic, and it's definitely a look that I don't see very often with other smartphones at all. But taking a look at the left side of the phone, we have the slot for the micro SD card and SIM card. Then on the right side, we have the power button, volume down and volume up. Then up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, microphone, and the speaker. Taking a look at the back of the phone, we have a pretty minimalist design here, but we do have that triple camera setup, we have the flash, and we have the fingerprint sensor. So in general, I think it is a pretty good looking phone. Of course, it doesn't have any gimmicks either, but do we really need gimmicks? I mean, I'm a big fan of devices that put practicality first. I use my phones to get work done, whether that's calls, taking photos for my business, doing all that stuff. So I'm definitely a big fan of devices that put practicality first. Now here is the box that the Motorola One 5G Ace comes in. Let's open this up and I'll give you a quick look at everything that comes inside. We're getting some informational literature about the phone. We're getting a SIM card removal tool. We're getting a USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. And we're getting a 10-watt USB wall adapter. So keep in mind that this phone technically can be recharged at 15 watts, but the wall adapter that does come included is limited at 10 watts. However, this 10-watt adapter is double the wattage of the old school Apple charger that used to come with all the various iPhones until this year when they stopped providing that. So keep that in mind that most people are used to 5-watt charging. So since this is 10 watts, it's going to be an improvement for most people out there. Is another variant of this phone called the A71 5G, which actually does have other improvements in addition to giving you video content. Looks really good on the Motorola One 5G Ace. Colors are great. Things look crisp and clear. I like too that you can crop in just like you can on many other Android phones. However, there is one major disappointment, and that is that there's no stereo audio. The only audio comes out of the main speaker on the bottom. Whereas with many other Motorola phones in the past, including the 2020 Moto G Power, we got audio coming out of both the bottom speaker and also the earpiece. And to make matters worse, Motorola has actually removed stereo audio from all of their new Moto G series phones. So not only is it not available in the Moto G Power 2021, and it's not available in the Moto G Stylus 2021, but even with this phone as kind of a more premium mid-ranger, there's no stereo audio. And it was something that I really liked that made Motorola stand out quite a bit from the competition. But unfortunately, by removing stereo audio, and that's especially a feature that Motorola had that Samsung didn't include in any of their A-series phones. So that was often one of the reasons why I would recommend Motorola budget and mid-range devices when they did have stereo audio. So unfortunately, by Motorola not including that feature here with this phone, it really makes it a bit less competitive, especially when Samsung's A-series devices like the A51 and A71, and I'm sure the A52 and A72 that are going to be out very shortly, it really makes this phone difficult to compete with those devices. It's like if you're a basketball player and you're really good at three-pointers, and for some reason you decide to stop making 3-point shots and you just do layups the whole time. That's kind of what Motorola is doing by getting rid of stereo audio. They're getting rid of one of the things that really made them stand out, especially in the mid-range and budget space. But that's really the only thing about this phone that I'm very disappointed about. Otherwise, I feel like it's a really good option, and I would say for the majority of people out there, stereo audio is not necessarily that important. It just makes a really good device be fantastic. So the speakers that are on here are perfectly fine, but again, they had that going for them and it really made them unique and they stopped providing it. But in general, I think the Motorola One 5G Ace is a solid mid-range option. I'm really curious to know though what you all think after watching this video. Would you consider getting this phone, or do you think there's better options out there? Definitely let me know in the comment section below. But this is my review of the Motorola One 5G Ace. I hope you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.